morning, and welcome to NCAfrica SMEs Fireside Chat. My name is Christiana Williams. I'm the co-lead at NCAfrica. Nutrition Conversation Africa is an initiative of One Divio in partnership with GAIN. And what we do is illuminate Africa's nutrition challenges and opportunities through transformative ideas and game-changing solutions such as advocacy, which is what we're doing right now at the Fireside Chat. So we create an enabling environment through continuous conversations for call to actions and advocacy support. Our topic for today is strategies for growing your food business successfully. There are tremendous growth opportunities in this food industry. Today, we have with us Ms. Ifeoluwa Olatayo, and she's the founder of Soupah Kitchen Co Limited. It's so nice to have you with us here today. And Soupah Kitchen Co Limited is a climate smart enterprise that uses hydroponics technology to plant food. So we are so glad to have you here, and we would like to hear you speak to us about the strategies of growing food businesses successfully in Africa. Thank you.
I'm delightful to want to share from my experience and from also the learnings that I've got from people in the past. So within this topic of successfully building strategies for building a successful food brand, I have 3 points to bring out within this discussion, and hopefully there are questions that then can be asked. The positioning means that you want to be known for something. So when people know that, okay, you can be a ready to cook brand or ready to eat food brand, or position to building a successful food business within the value chain. And you typically, when we want to curate solutions within the chain, you want to know that there's actually a problem you're solving, and then who are the typical, what's your ideal customer. So wanting to have a brand in itself or wanting to have a business in itself is not it's legendary. Okay, there is a problem, and obviously we can then use this solution to solve the problem, to define what the problem is, then now creating a user persona. So the user persona in this case is like your ideal customer, what's your demographic? And once that is defined, then can be able to properly create the positioning that fits into your view or your ideal customer. So that way, it's like you're investing in quality processes, research and development, or market research and monitoring, getting even existing data points from articles or research that are made for purchase online, to make sure that you get all the important information that would help to promote the brand. Your company is available on all social networks, and you're very active in all the social networks. So different channels, customers think about you, they want to see you. Now, the concept of being socially active, they're also very important for the fact that the customers already know you. How are you a top of mind brand for them? So that it gets to a point where once they think about your products, they only see you, they only see your brand. When it comes to acquiring customer, we also must not forget that it's important to have retention strategies to be able to keep the customers coming in. What are your referral programs that will even make them tell other people? How loyal are they? And how do you also track the data? Do you have a churn rate? And what's the reason for the churn rate? So all those data helps to say, okay, these are the things that are actually helping our brand, and how well can we push it? Product is very important. That's the reason, that's majorly the problem you're solving. But when it comes to product, it's an important part of your business. A product market fit is when you're able to say, I brought something to the market, it's actually needed, and it's constantly purchased or constantly requested, to make sure that there's proper sustainability. So what is the value that your product is bringing to the table? In my notes, I added that there's a need for product feature. So your food product on the agricultural value chain is not just about, I've seen a niche, and I know that I'm solving a problem, and then that's only what I do. So taking a cue from our experience, Soupah Kitchen started some years back when I was in the university as a student. I saw a problem. Students do not like to go to the market to cook. I was making ready to cook spices or stews for them and then sell it. Soupah Kitchen also started looking at adding product features. What are the other product lines? And we're pushing that to our market. And we have a lot of customers buying the spices too. Over time, your customers will definitely ask you, so what next? What's new? At the point where we also launched into hydroponics technology to use it to plant the food so that we could actually, it's like backward integration to help us to properly handle all the value chain to maintain quality. It was part of the reason some customers, we converted some new customers because they know that, okay, so it's traceable raw materials. So all those things are part of the improvements that needs to come into place when we are running a food business in Africa. Customers are now getting very informed, and they are also very curious on what they eat. So those being able to add features that are relevant to your customers is very important when you want to grow your business. Like, is it the same packaging that you've been using since that your business is still using? Do you have a kind of value that you add to your packaging in a way that it's easy to use? How well are you improving on the packaging design and the likes of that? It also somehow, and to a large extent that people are not even conscious of, helps with customer retention and then continuous revenue growth for your business. Even the structure of your stores. So you can have multiple stores, but do they look the same for the next 2 years, 3 years? Do you want to do some uplift, facelift to the look of the restaurant? Do you want to give it an ambience that is comfortable, an ambience that you're comfortable to the extent that you spend beyond your budget within that same system? So what are the things that the refining that you're bringing? For some businesses that are buoyant, it's not out of place to even have a business, like a business development officer in that sense, or we have process improvement officers, we have business excellence officers, people that want to see that we are not just selling products. So you want to make sure that you have a system or a structure or people, if you can afford it, that monitor if customers are getting real value for their money, or we are even exceeding the expectations in terms of the service in combination with the product. So it doesn't stop with the product. What you bring to the table is very important as a whole, as a business. What expert advice are you giving? So all the likes actually is very good for the brand to be able to scale in a way that is relevant to the customer. I also want to run business for the sake of maintaining or building a profitable portfolio for the investor, for the other stakeholders, for the directors of the companies, even for the employees of the company. Focusing on just 3 things is the budgeting and the proper bookkeeping and the proper analytics of whatever business whatever processes you have in place for your food business. Budgeting is important because you're able then to say, within this period, this is what we can afford, for example. So within the first month or within the first quarter, we cannot go beyond this budget. So whatever it is, we keep our costs under proper control. So what are the things that are continuous expenses for our business for the next, for the first week, for the second week and third weeks? Together with the finance department, you're able to sit down and create a good, thorough budget. At the beginning of the year, breaking it down into monthly goals, and even till the end, and to quarter achievement, so that we keep checking on this budget. If we are always staying within it, we must not exceed it. There's a very good level of discipline when you have a business and you're able to stay within your budget up to the end of the year, that you now do the accounting for that period and see that you're properly in line. At the end of the year, you also have to, see things, we calculate all the likes of that. So the budgeting is very important when it comes to business processes. And then when it now comes to the second one, which is the bookkeeping, how properly do you keep books? Budgeting is not a, let me have it in my mind that, okay, we will not spend more than 4 million this month. So maybe we can still afford 8 million. So let's just leave it at that. No, We're properly able to pick each item and say, this is what we want. But then how do we then track if we stayed within that, if there's no proper record? Record keeping has been over time known by a lot of entrepreneurs, including food business owners, that is very, very key to your success in terms of even financial inclusion, to be able to access loans, in terms of also investment, to be able to access other external investment, or to be able to run profitably, there has to be a proper bookkeeping. So how well do you have a structure, a system in place that helps you to a structure of internal control or a system of the expenses that are spent for different categories of your expenses as it runs on a basis to operate expenses, or a capital expense for your expansion? Are you able to properly put this in line and in shape? Then when now comes to that, you don't just also want to gather this data, you want to make sure that this data informs every of your decision. So for food business, for example, it's very important that at least a business owner has a behind of the daily sales report. It is for a business owner to not know the numbers that is happening on his or her business. Every poor performance, it's unacceptable. In my own opinion, you should be able to say, this was the sales for last week. This is what we got yesterday. And maybe based on projection, this is what we hope to get in the next 7 days. Let's double down on whatever strategy that made us achieve that. And if sales is going down, okay, so what are we doing wrong here? And how can we correct that to make sure that we're on our trajectory of increasing revenue? So doing that is very critical. And then also having to monitor certain key data like our prime cost is very important for food businesses. It's for food business in Africa, it's really all over the world. It's actually very fast-paced, which means things are happening fast. If there's a revenue of 20 million naira that day, a business owner who is not very thorough would think, oh, well, we are doing well. We're doing well. I mean, we are generating this amount. How many businesses does that? But then, what is your prime cost? What if you're generating 20 million naira and it is below the prime cost? Now, in this case, what's prime cost? Cost of goods sold. That's what it's generally known as. It's the direct cost of everything that goes into the production of your business minus other expenses. Which means if you are even generating revenue that's not up to your prime cost, you are making far less because there are also other expenses that are associated with running your business. So what's the direct cost of the raw materials that went into that packaged product, and what's the direct labor that has gone into it? All those are the prime costs. Every other cost, like administrative and the likes of that, comes in later on your P&L sheet. But are you tracking the prime cost? As a matter of fact, it's not even enough to track it weekly. If a business owner, for me as a business owner, I want to know how much was made in a day and how much cost went into making that, so that decisions can easily be made faster in a way that doesn't affect the business. It's not okay to even know it in a week. Sometimes some people check data in a week. Some people don't check in a month. Some people check at the end of a quarter to be able to see. And for some, it's until the end of the year that they go through the P&L and see all the costs, which is not effective. It's not effective in the sense that you wouldn't know what to speak to. Some roles like business improvement officer that I talked about earlier, or like a business excellence manager, cost controller, that seems like it is extra, it is luxury. If the business can afford it, go for it, because all these internal control systems that you're putting in place are very important. And systems are always managed by structure. So if you have people that my primary role is to study the data and say, we need to control our costs. We're spending too much on fuel. We're spending too much on labor. All the likes of that helps to be able to make decisions. All these things are just very good when it comes to be able to scale the business. As it were, then for me to be able to stay within time, I'll just put it to the rest of that. Thank you.
This was very insightful. So we'll go directly into the questions now. You've been able to answer some of them, but then we'll just pick on a few. So drawing from your achievements, what factors can you say were effective in the strategic positioning of your brand within the African food system?
The most important part of our brand success was or is the positioning. How have we been able to position ourselves and stay relevant in front of the customers? So at the point when the business started, it started as something, but then, and that's a ready-to-cook food brand, and then it grew. Even though it grew over time, we're able to constantly explain to people, sometimes even as good as when I meet people personally, having to explain to them, oh, the business, we're into this, and then we've grown into that. Now, for a business that is innovative, you want to keep pivoting in a way that you stay relevant to your customer, or in a way that you're still able to acquire a larger breadth of the market. So that way, positioning has been very important. When it comes to positioning, experts will tell you that even to the tagline, it has to mean something to the customer. Positioning goes into the fact that you're looking at that even the color of the brand, does it induce hunger? When it comes to food product, does it make people want to cook? Does it make them want to eat immediately? When it comes to the logo, does it relate to what you are solving? When it comes to the name, can they read it and something comes to their mind that has to do with your product? Like in the sense that Soupah, so when people read it, they know soup is soup that people, sometimes people stop at soup. When we started, they just stop at soup, that Soupah Kitchen. But it has already related to the product, they could relate with it. Then every other part was just backing it up when it comes to, okay, this is the product that a customer wants. And that has been like the most important thing for positioning has been good. We are pivoting and we're able to properly communicate what we stand for, each part of the progress as a company. And yes, that's it. That has been it.
Okay, thank you very much. So, while you were talking, you spoke about marketing. Are there any other forms of marketing or strategic brand promotions that you've been able to use effectively and it was quite successful for you?
Marketing has to be paid for. There has to be a percentage of your revenue dedicated to marketing. Marketing not only for the short term, but for the long term. But in itself, because there's a lot of wider reach that you get in the digital age marketing. That's why social is involved. Other part of marketing can be newsletters in a way that you are not just on social media and or influencers are doing all of that. When people are looking for a particular issue, they type it, you come first place to tell them about it. Also search engine optimization. The reason why marketing is very critical now, and there's a lot of effort we have to put into it, is because the landscape is now very competitive. Almost every day, like newborn, businesses are birthed almost every day now. Everybody has an idea and everybody's encouraged to pursue and run after their goals. So you want to make sure that you're actually ahead of your market and you have a large percentage of large you're a big player within your industry.
The food industry is fast-paced and is constantly evolving as well. So as food brands, there's a need for you to be able to keep abreast of the information, the changes in the food system, the new developments, and then you have to find a way to constantly remain relevant on the long run. So how would new food brands, new upcoming SMEs, how would they be able to do this in the food system based off of your experience? How can you advise them to be able to keep themselves informed and updated?
Okay, so one thing that's very critical in this, we're all running the cat and dog race. Everybody's trying to build a unicorn, or everybody's trying to be the market mover within our industry. And then we are now seeing that new movers are beginning to say, oh, how would I even try to move this mountain? It already looks big. And I'll be playing against really, really, when they say big guys, it looks like it's stress even before starting. But one thing I know that is very important, at least from my experience, is building a purposeful company. That helps you to know how to stay relevant in your industry. that actually takes away the pressure that might be coming from big guns, is that from you. Your relevance might not be another person's relevance. Now, being able to identify your relevance is very critical to your mental health as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship, right, is not for the faint-hearted. It's not a joke. You are rolling in with the punches every single day. You wake up every day, you dress up knowing that you are going to look for a problem, because there'll be something that will happen at work that you are just going out to solve it. You know that problems will keep waiting for you every day. So that in itself it takes a lot of stamina. Now, you don't want to bother yourself about trying to check your competitor and then using metrics that don't matter to judge your relevance. So what is important to you? For our company, our social mission is very important to us. We're a climate smart startup, and we are very climate conscious in all our processes. So that is very key. Now, another way to now stay relevant goes back to what I just said, your corporate social responsibility. Now, even though you've defined your first relevance, the world still have opportunity to difference, and that other relevance is how much impact are you making in the lives of people. When it comes to entrepreneurs that are very rich and super rich, we have a lot of them. So which means that, well, it's no longer special when you run your business and you run it well and you get good opportunity, good timing, good product, you'll make millions, billions. You'll be comfortable, you'll be fine. But then, what other thing would people think about when it comes to your brand and say, oh, well, my life was touched. Someone's life got touched. Something happened. Our environment got better. We now have fresher air to breathe in. We now have trees are planted to reduce landslides. You know, all those things are very important too. So we'll make sure that we took our ESG, that's our environmental social governance framework, to make sure that all our processes are impact driven. So we are not just running for profit, we are running for purpose. We are running to make sure that our planet is protected. We're running to make sure that people stay nutritious. I mean, and that actually is the summary of our company vision. So that is very important for every food entrepreneur.
Everybody is tending towards climate smart enterprises that help to mitigate the issues that we're having with climate changes right now, and sustainability. How were you able to identify this need as a brand? Is it like as a result of your customers asking, or it was basically a major key in your company brand planning?
I particularly like this question because for me, of our business, we see ourselves as an advocate of climate change to make sure that the agricultural industry, as much as possible, all the players and all the actors within this industry are aware of climate change, how we contribute to it, and how we can, even if we cannot reverse it, how we can mitigate or adapt in a way that reduces the impact. Now, how did we get to this place? We were just selling soups for crying out loud. How did we start thinking about climate change? But then it was the time that I realized that agriculture is a big contributor to climate change, that I realized that I'm also part of the problem. Knowing that for every food entrepreneur, it's very paramount, either existing entrepreneur or new entrepreneur. We contribute on the agriculture value chain, we contribute about 23% based on statistics, aside from transportation and energy. Culture is a big contributor to climate change, either in livestock or even in crop production. Now, knowing that if climate change erodes the earth or it destroys our planet, including the customers and the businesses, will not be available. Yeah. And that's why it's important. We see that we are causing it. We either put a stop to it or mitigate it or adapt in a way that can reverse some of the effect that's already causing issues with us. Now, looking at the agricultural value chain from start to finish, when you're producing food, there are fertilizers and chemicals that are petroleum-based, and that chemical base makes them, when it's used, it actually creates CO2 emissions. CO2 emission depletes the atmosphere, goes to the ozone layer, depletes the atmosphere, and then we harvest the food. When we're harvesting the food, they are meeting, there are food waste. Within that food waste, after some days, within the farmland or maybe on the landfill, they decay. When they decay, they create methane gases. Methane gases are 23% more potent than CO2 emissions. All of these go into the ozone layer. Then we transport the food. The CO2 emission from the vehicle going to any location emits CO2. Now we take it to some places, either the factory where we want to process it or the restaurant where we want to cook it. At the factory or restaurant, sometimes we are using generating sets that are creating CO2 emission, or we are using extreme kilowatt of equipment that are draining energy, causing climate effect. Then we sell, and the likes of that. So that whole process in itself, even we sell to customers, customers take it, they waste some part of it. The whole chain creates emission. That's even crop production. When you look at livestock production, so when it comes to the food that the livestock preferably are eaten, when they belch, when they are waste, everything is creating gases that are greenhouse gases that are affecting the atmosphere. Now we started having different trends, high temp floodings, invasive pests and diseases, a lot of climate effect that is beginning to affect the planet. Now, knowing that we are contributor to it, just assures two things. As it is at the food business, we must make sure that it's our duty to reduce emissions within our processes. Having a framework that could help you monitor how much emissions is my processes given means that by the time, even if you do not have to, when we check, for example, we check our electricity and we think, okay, let's go solar. We don't have the funding for solar at the moment, but because we are conscious of it, we have it in our process, means when we have the funding for it, we definitely implement it. And that is what is important. Now, if there's funding for you to be able to, then implement it, reduce costs. So there's a lot of CO2 emissions that get caught when we implement such things or when we get conscious of it. So that's why it's very important that we make sure that the industry is causing it, but we must reduce it by trying to cut as much as possible. As a company, we even have a goal for our process to be net zero by the year 2025. Now that we see that, okay, funding slows us down, we are able to sit down again on the round table and make decisions on let's change it to 2028. That means we are constantly monitoring that process. So it's very important. Now, the second reason it's important for food entrepreneurs to be very climate conscious in their processes is so that we then mitigate it. We put it out of place. Earlier we are putting the ESG framework in place to mitigate it. Yeah. But now we want to adapt to it. Now, the second reason for adapting to it is we are creating it. We know that over time we'll stop creating that impact, and then somehow the planet itself will reverse. At the moment that we are still having the effect, how do we properly adapt to it? It was adaptation that made us change our source of raw material to using hydroponics, because it means that we don't have issues of flooding, or issues of drought wouldn't affect the farm where we get our raw materials, because we don't depend. It's a climate controlled agriculture system. It's an environmental control system that wouldn't need the natural rain, or in some cases the direct sunlight to be able to produce food. We wouldn't need the soil. And we use less water. All those things. We use no chemical fertilizer, zero pesticides, zero machinery. So as much as possible, we are trying to mitigate it, but also adapt to what is already happening until we get to a point where we can mitigate it. But one leads to the other, and that is having a mission that actually puts this into a conscious process, and then having a structure that puts it into practice.
For our last question, our time is fast spent. Based on your experience, I'd like you to share with us some misunderstandings or challenges about the food business. Then also, can you give young youths that are looking into going into the food business, can you give them some advice about how to be better prepared and what steps they can take that will help them to have a soft landing in the food industry?
The challenge that we've experienced either in the past or at the moment is the fast pace. Excuse me. The food industry is so fast paced that you already have a strategy to started implementing. It's more like you're running after your customer because they are on to the next thing in another in another few days already. And you have all the grounds prepared to do something. So how effective is the team was what the question that the leadership of the company had to answer. How effective is it when you want to implement things? How fast within a given period of time are you able to, in a way that's relevant until your customer moves to the next big thing? And how well are you able to follow the customers or follow the money in good case to be able to properly stay ahead or keep ahead? So being that the challenge as it is, it's just putting good leadership in place and putting a way that effective team and effective team members or effective team setup that are able to properly understand that industry and work in line with the growth or the trajectory of the industry. Now, the second challenge for most businesses is because you want to keep growth at a big scale every time. And the moment that you're already at a level, you're thinking, how do I go to the next level? Of course, any positive thinking person is thinking, okay, so we made this already. It's not new. How do we move to the next level? It has been funding. How do we get funding to adequately scale our processes? Or how do we get funding to do research and development? To us, we are very innovative or innovation inclined, and we want to do research, do development. It's not about being complacent. There are new things, there are big things. As a customer, as we are saying, it's fast-paced. We also want to be fast movers within our ecosystem. So how do we get proper funding to drive research and development? How do we get proper funding to scale when we've actually proven a product or proven a market? All those were challenges. There were challenges of employee challenges. Almost every food business would have that, but typically maybe the low-level staff. But then low-level staff someday would also be senior executive in some years. So how well do you train your staff? How well do they buy into the vision? How well do they key into your process? Do they see activity when they come to work? Are they full of life? Are they full of energy to want to actually solve the problem? Does it align with their own personal vision? All of this is what brings to the table to make sure that the problem or the challenges rather are manageable as the business grows. Now, in conclusion, because of our time, young people, I know that young people, for me, I see young people in the next few years, they'll be very active solution providers within the food system in Africa and within the value chain. They will be solving critical new problems that we never knew in the past. They will identify them, they will solve them. My advice is young people, new foodpreneurs, please keep technology at the breadth of all your innovation. Let technology drive it. Technology is a big thing now because it's actually meeting needs in a faster, cheaper, and more effective way. Technology brings a lot of efficiency. So don't look past that when you're building whatever product you're building, whatever solution you're bringing to the market, make sure that it's tech-driven. It's not just for the buzz, because technology, food tech, agri-tech, startups, they have the buzz, but it's not for the buzz. It's the fact that it makes you efficient and very effective within the whole ecosystem. And also, when you see challenges, don't run away from it. We face different. I've had accident on my business, and I did not run. And that's the reason, and because of that experience, I wouldn't be the CEO of Soupah Kitchen Co talking today about what other people can learn from and grow from. So when you face business challenges, keep at it. Every entrepreneur, I can assure you, I can start mentioning names of very, very big billionaires that are entrepreneurs. They still have those challenges. Might be another level of challenge.
Yeah.
But the truth is, with no reason for you to stop. Thank you.
I'm sure our community has been able to learn a lot and has been able to pick key points as to how to grow their food business successfully. We're very grateful for your time and thank you for joining us today. And would like to know if you are open to collaborations or if our community can reach out to you should in case they want to discuss certain topics or they need help with certain ideas.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ma. It was very insightful having this conversation with you.